Hi, Robert. I'm sorry I didn't get this out for you over the weekend, but here we are back in touch. It's a new week. We'll do this video, and then we'll do the one that you asked about the teaching and different things like that. This one's very important, though, because this one ties in with a higher meaning, and it's something I can't prove to you. I can't even prove it to myself. It has to do with religion, and you gave me an email that said how you thought differently of God than what I had said, and you saw that you'd never heard it quite the way that I had put it, you said, and that you had thought of God as something that man has taught you about how if you pray and you do this, then this will come, and that type of thing, and you see it as a cause and effect relationship as it's been taught by man and churches and things through time. And I would like to do this for you, not to convert you, because I couldn't convert you to something, because I don't even know what I am. I don't even know what you need to be. I don't even know what being a conversion would look like, because, I can't see God. I can't understand. And so I can't convert you. So I want you to be open-minded to this, because this could play out, what I'm going to talk to you about could play out and have great significance in your life and the life of the world, even if God didn't exist. And I think that because what I talk about with my know-nothing philosophy, the greatest things that we can learn about truth and the power of being and the higher purpose would need to inherently exist, even if God didn't exist. It would need to be built into the fabric or the tapestry of the universe. And so what I would like to suggest to you is that you dedicate your mind to this concept so that you can distinguish what is a fallacy or a delusion of man to serve man and what would not be a delusion of any type over you to serve man, but what God as your creator, if he existed, or universal force, or whatever you want it to be, would actually want. And if you can see that distinguishment between what God is really wanting from the creation and what would naturally be served by a creator that makes something, as an artist and a creator, you know this, and then you make the distinction of what man would do in order to use or falsify what God would do for his own selfish purposes, and use it under the guise of, hey, I'm telling what God would want, then you could start to become able to see what has been done in the name of religion that is a false notion that has been taught and perpetuated through the eons of time. And when you find the answers to seeing how to notice what the difference is between the corruption of man and the failings and what they're giving to you for something back, an ulterior motive to achieve a better life in this fleshly form, in this materialistic facade of life, you can attribute that to man, and very likely it's just riddled with fallacies and delusion and self-perpetuating ulterior motives that will lead you astray. But somehow, if you listen to anything that is taught to you, you'll somehow end up going back and putting back into the laps of those that have caused this some good thing that they can enjoy in the world. And if you can understand and get the key for that, even without the teachings of Jesus, which clearly can give you the key to that, even without other religious ideas and aspirations, and you just can see it as this would be of God and what God, the creator would want, and this would be of man, and figure out what he's doing as a snake oil salesman to borrow from this would be of God in order to put the best polish or the best spin on it for you, then the reason why I'm doing this is because you can then find your higher purpose by sorting through the delusion of the weight and baggage that's been given to you and sold to you before you even knew you were buying it. And so I'm trying to release you by giving you a better overall perspective, so that the perspective that you're building, that you want to build within yourself and in your life, will be allowed to be forthcoming to you. These things have to be realized that I'm going to talk to you about in this video in order for that to happen. So I'm going to try not to make it too religious so that you don't dismiss it. I've talked with a lot of atheists, and a lot of atheists are so disgruntled and so jaded and so one-sided and so certain and so convicted of what they are that they're more convicted than what a lot of religious people even are, because religious people admit right off the top that it's just a faith thing, but a lot of times atheists won't admit that they don't know and that theirs is just a faith thing or a lack of faith thing. So please keep this as an open-minded thing. And remember the entire time that I'm talking with you that even if God didn't exist, these things would be they would need to be inherently a part of our universe. They would need to be inherently a part of all things. And so then, therefore, it comes cyclically back to God. Well, then, therefore, God probably does exist because these things are natural and inherent. So then you just apply a label to the things that are natural and inherent. And you say, well, whatever that is, that entity that is responsible for that natural and inherentness, well, then that's what you call God. There's your definition. So when you take away from that natural inherent quality and make it into something that a device that man can use, well, then that's what you call evil. The lack of ability to see that, that's where all the gray zone is. And that's why the world has the problems that it has. You don't want to be a part of those problems. And you don't want, the most important thing is, you don't want those problems to be a problem for you. And to limit your own conscious growth and your own higher purpose and your own enjoyment of life and your own accomplishment of everything that you could be able to accomplish. And so that's why this is so important. So let's start off with just these few scratchy notes that I made for myself. And I'm going to try to say this as an eloquent a way that I can say it as I'm using these scratchy notes, and hopefully we'll take it from there. This might be a long video, it might be a short video, I'm not sure. It depends on how well it comes out. It's very difficult to do this. Okay, so let's start off with the word religion. Religion is an attempt to understand and venture into the realm of the unknown and come back with some type of an understanding or an info that you can utilize to relate better to things you can't see, like a creator or a universal force or whatever. Some way to relate to that in a way that because you've existed and you've exerted energy, Einstein says, E equals mc squared. You can't take away from energy without becoming another form. Everything equals. So if you go out, if you follow even a scientific theory for the study of God or things that you can't find or the realm behind things, even then there's a scientific theory. Einstein said that imagination is more important than wisdom. More important than knowledge is what he said actually. But imagination can lead to wisdom. Now, why is this so? He's got a theory that he came up with, E equals mc squared. He saw this theory as natural inherentness, and then in the universe, and then went about proving it. I'm going to take his theory and show you how, if you go and apply an energy to fathoming about a God or a universal thing, and you go into that, like I said, the religion is an attempt to understand and venture into the realm of the unknown and come back with some understanding or info in order to better serve yourself to relate to whatever's there. You can't come back with nothing because you exerted the energy. And so whatever you bring back, even if it's just a fathoming or it's an inkling of desire to even see it, or whatever you bring back from you, if your essence was truly motivated to go and try to explore or analyze and try to find something, you'll bring something back because E equals mc squared says you will. And that's a scientific theory grounded in reality of our physical realm. You'll bring something back. But it's not tangible. You can't show it to someone else and say, look, now you can have it too. But you do have something. That's the mustard seed that Jesus was talking about. If you have the mustard seed to do that versus not, Jesus said to do that because he knew that Einstein's theory equals mc squared, even though he didn't know the theory at the time because Einstein wasn't even born. He knew that was inherently connected to the universe. He knew that was an inherent fact of the universe. And so when he talked about his measure of faith as small as a mustard seed, being able to move mountains, he knew that if you injected just enough into the eternal realm, you would bring back something because you had to. But you can't see it. But that's a religion. That's relating to your Creator. And if you take that thing and you build on that, you're going to have something. And that's going to make a higher purpose for you. But here's where the higher purpose gets sabotaged. Every other person says they did that. And instead of them making a higher purpose for themselves and then helping you to have a higher purpose, they say they do it, don't know what to do with it, are confused, dishonorable, and they take and say they did it, but they find a way that saying they did it in this physical realm, saying they did it to other people, can help them in this physical realm under the guise of, because you were confused when you went out and looked, you didn't know what was there either. They say, I can show you what it was. I can show you what I found. I'll sell you what I found. I'll create churches to sell you and foster what I found, being a lucrative existence to all men that would follow. That's how religion went down the dark road. That is how it happened. So all these things that you saw that were written out ahead of time, cause and effectuality, whatever, why were they written that way? Because they required your servitude to a man and a philosophy or a thought of thing. And you reciprocated by giving your servitude to them, and they benefit in some way in the physical realm of the facade rather than the eternal. And so they benefit in that way. And so they didn't bring anything back that they choose to grapple with and fathom and work with. They brought nothing back or didn't understand it or rejected it. Or maybe worse, didn't even look. And said, I see these guys are looking and they don't know what's there. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tell them what's there because I'm going to act like I know. I'm going to be a priest. I'm going to be whatever it is. And I'm going to sell it to them and they're going to give me something. We're going to reshape the world in this unconscious, dark, evil manner under the guise of we're reshaping the world under the search for God and holiness, and you're going to attain enlightenment. And that's why the world is the way it is. They've never obtained the enlightenment because they thought the enlightenment could be obtained in the darkness, but it can't. So people like you that have remained an atheist all their life and haven't ever seen a greater light or a higher consciousness or an enlightenment have been subservient to those ills and darknesses that have come before you. And as a result, you see God the way that you wrote in your letter. I don't have your letter in front of you. I should have had it in front of you. You said that I see God as a cause and effect thing. I don't see it the way that you see it. I've never heard of anybody talk about God the way that you talk about it. That's because I talk about God through consciousness. I realize, I'm looking for your letter here, I realize that what you were struggling with in your vision of God was a fallacy or a delusion perpetuated and created and conceived through evil, through man. And I realize it for what it is. And I reject it as a part of my higher purpose. And so as my higher purpose is to have consciousness and is to realize these things, that becomes what my entire life is about. And so I'm able to talk with people like you and still not offer proof. But I'm not required to offer proof. I'm required to show you why a mustard seed's worth of faith will accomplish this. I'm required to show you how evil is lack of consciousness, and consciousness brings apart the will of God, because that's what he wants for his conscious creation. And by doing only that, then you take that mustard seed and you do it and you apply it and you'll see what I'm saying. And even if God didn't exist, you'd still get what people were doing that was wrong. You'd still overcome all that. Even if God didn't exist, you'd still see it for what it was, and you'd eventually sort it out and never be tripped up by it again. So even if God didn't exist, you could have the power to do this by understanding the consciousness that I'm sharing with you right now about your lack of perception of what God is because of the failure of what man has shown you what God is, and you learned it through that way. This is the gift that I can give to you, and this is the gift that Jesus proposed to give to the world. Now, this is why I attribute what I see to Jesus, because he also said it. Now, you can say that other people like Buddha and different people said these same things. And that is a label. All I'm doing is I'm saying, Paul Roberts didn't do this all by himself. Paul had help from the universal spirit, the Holy Spirit, Jesus, whatever you want to call it. I've even learned things from other philosophies and other religions. And I believe that God would have allowed for those other things to have basic truths in their hand. Maybe there's a few things that aren't right. But I believe that if your heart and your soul and spirit wants to inject something into the outer realm and bring it back, that I believe that the Creator would have those devices in all kinds of means all over the world for you to have so that you can use them. And I believe that other men that want to have their way established and want you to give to them so that they can have something and just live for the here and now and the facade and the darkness of evil and not seeing anything further out there or not wanting to, but it's okay, I got everything I need here. My life's just handy dandy. I like the physical pleasures and I'm living fine, and I'm living on the backs of them and their delusions and their lack of foresight and insight. That's why it's perpetuated. I hope that makes sense. And I hope you listen to this particular video a number of times, because this is difficult to say and difficult to perceive and difficult to believe. But I'm trying to make it as logical and provable as possible so that you can test it. Don't believe it because I said it, but test it. Analyze it. Meditate on it. Look at all things through this filter and see how they all made things the way they are. And if you can do that, you'll be on your road to never being duped by anybody. You'll be on your road to be a self-confident master of all that you touch. You'll be on the road to filtering everything that comes into you, filtering it out, put it where it needs to go, and never let it hamper you. You'll be on the road to being higher and greater than you've ever been. Why? Because you are meant to be. Why? Because you can be. Why? Because some force beyond yourself made you able to be. Then why aren't you? Because other things are holding you down. Why are the other things holding you down? Because they're inculcated into the fabric of the society that lives on this earth right now and what they need in order to sustain themselves. And you are a victim to that. We all are, if we don't see it. And we're victim even once we do see it. But then our purpose changes. My higher purpose isn't to become fabulously wealthy. My higher purpose isn't to thwart all these things and shoot them down. My higher purpose is to just realize it. And then, like I said, through your art, just realizing it has to come out to every person that you meet and talk to. How few people are doing that. Or how many space cadets are there with their modern philosophy that are just like, oh yeah, that feels good, man, that's great, that's groovy, yeah. You had the hippies, you had the new age people now. They all think they got something, but they don't got anything. It's not anchored down. All it is some new way of thinking. Woo, if I think this way, there must be something to it. Ooh, that guy's profound, He's selling something different, another snake oil that all the other people don't sell, but it's still snake oil. I'm not selling you a snake oil. I'm selling you something you can see on your own. I'm giving you the tools to see it on your own so you don't need me to see it. Everybody else, if you need someone to see it, that's a part of the delusion. That's a part of the evil. That's a part of the snake oil salesman. That's a part of the fabric of the people that aren't going to God and trying to find out what that is. And they're using saying they did, and they're using what they think they found to make you be subservient. That's what I don't want you to listen to me for. I want you to come to see these things on your own. I'm offering you only the keys. This is all that Jesus did. He only offered the keys. He didn't affect change in a way that he could have. He could have gotten people to violently revolt. He could have gotten people to do all kinds of other things that he didn't do. But he purposely didn't do those things. I don't know if you're familiar with the Bible at all, but even when one of his disciples at the end took a sword and cut off somebody's ear, he immediately patched up and said, that's not the way. I don't know if you're familiar with that, or even if I should even use it as an example. But the point of the matter is, the way is to see that even if Jesus didn't exist, even if God didn't exist, the way that he showed, or what was attributed to him through those words, is so pure that it would be universally accurate and universally significant and universally beneficial to the strength of the mankind's creative purpose, totality of greater purpose. It would be attributable to that even if they didn't exist, and you would benefit and all of mankind would benefit by thwarting and pushing down these that would benefit for falsification reasons in the physical realm, and and every other person is gonna help them. Even if God didn't exist, that would still be real. So when you realize that, there's your source for your higher purpose. Now, when you go and you make that higher purpose and you shape it and you bend it and you make it the way it's going to be so that you can understand it, you may one day come to say, I'm going to now attribute that. I'm going to now nail that down and say, what do I label it as attributed to? Some generic thing out there? You could do that. I attribute it to Jesus because that's what helped me to see it. And I see what he said is so intrinsically connected that even if he didn't exist, he'd still exist. So the idea of Jesus would still exist even if he didn't exist. The idea of God would still exist even if God didn't exist. And so I label it to that because it's so flawless for what I'm illustrating to you right now, that I label it to them even if they wouldn't exist. So that's my mustard seed of faith. And that's my best way to offer it to you. Not converting you, but saying these things are so valuable and so true and so pure and so interlinked that I don't even have to prove they exist in order for you to see the value and validity in it. You can come to see for yourself. You don't need to see they exist. And wouldn't an all-powerful God or a messenger that he used to help relate to mankind, wouldn't they be able to be intrinsically so connected to things that they wouldn't need to even exist? Yes. But that doesn't work to a church or somebody that's going to use you and your allegiance to them to show you that you're doing something wrong, and they're going to do a little tweaking with the wrench, make you right. You're going to keep supporting them as they serve in my opinion, evil and money, because you're going to be lobbed onto them. You can't get it without yourself. You can't get it without them. You can't have it for yourself. You can't get it by yourself. You've got to have them. That's not the way that Jesus taught it. That's not the way that a creator would want it. What if you're stranded on a deserted island? I mean, for goodness sakes, look at the logic of it. What are you benefiting by lobbing on? Are you benefiting God? Does God need help? He did all this. Why would he need help? You're benefiting the man. And the reason why you're benefiting the man is because that was the evil that he did to you to make you think you needed to do that. So what they do is they teach you this equals that, and that equals this, as in your email. That's a fallacy. What you're believing and seeing God as all your life, that's a fallacy in my opinion. And don't listen to me, but see what I'm saying, and see if you don't see to cut through that and shatter that all over the ground. I think you will. If you embrace man's false notion of God, you'll find it does not work, and therefore abandon God and embrace man instead, which is what man ultimately wants you to do. But they keep saying it's about God. When this happens, you enter the world of lack of consciousness, the world of darkness. And the price for entering this world of darkness is your consciousness, your higher consciousness. You subscribe to what will be sold to you and what you can benefit from that. And once again, I would like to say that Jesus said that he came so that this would never have to happen. He tried to overcome darkness. He called himself the light of the world. What he was trying to say, in my opinion, is that he will give you the ability to see past all that stuff that man's dealing out. He gave you the tools you'd need to do. But even if he didn't exist, you could gain these tools by what I'm talking about here. But again, I attribute it to him because it helped me to learn that these tools could be gained. And I didn't do it all on my own, so I attribute it to the teachings that I followed in order to gain it. So I attribute it back, I label it. But I can't know he's there. So it's a faith thing. It's a mustard seeds of faith thing again. I can't convert you to that because what am I? I'm still just a floating around faith thing. You can't be there. So when you lose this consciousness, and what happens is you fall into darkness and subscribe to the evil that they're selling. And you do business with them in transactions all your life, thinking you're gaining something, but you're really not. You just get an ebb and flow thing just to get you through. You feel like you're getting something. They're getting something from you too. That's the problem. You're not getting what you need, but you're paying like you are. The problem continues to be perpetuated. Why? Because you think, well, they're there. They're real. And they're giving me something. Whereas God, I don't see that. What could that give me? And they say, well, what about Jesus? He's a man too, isn't he? Wouldn't he be doing the same thing? Sure. So they bring Jesus and these other enlightening types of concepts down, and you just, at some point, you subscribe to apathy, and you say, oh, it's all just a ruse. I don't want anything to do with that. There can't be any greater enlightenment connected to any of that. I'm just tired. And you throw your arms up and you say, I attribute this to the fact there is no God. If there was a God, then he wouldn't let me struggle with this. That's what you do. That's how you become an atheist. And that's why you are what you are. And tell me if I'm wrong. But don't tell me right away. Tell me when you think this through and see. I think you're going to find that's exactly why you are what you are. And that's exactly why what I've described here is why I am what I am. And this is exactly why you can be what I am. But it's not a conversion. Because when you're what I am, you're just leaving what you are. You're not ever going to be what I am. You're going to be your own version of what I am. Which is throwing off those that would keep you down. Not being subservient to a lesser intelligence. That's what I am. You can call it Christian. You can call it a Jesus follower. You can call it a religious enlightenment. You can call it a higher consciousness. You can call it whatever you want. But you got to admit there'd be a great benefit and a great strength, and that your Creator, if there was one, would want it for you to throw this other stuff off. But throw it off and know why you're throwing it off, and come to a higher understanding, a higher meaning of purpose in your life by doing it. You got to admit that if a God existed, God would want that. Even if he didn't exist, the universal creation of all that you are would want that. So there's no inherent flaw that I can see. And until someone can point out an inherent flaw in it, That's why I embrace it. That's why I embrace it. I can't find anything else in the world that can be taught or learned or gained that's greater than that. I can't share with you anything that could be taught or learned or gained. Or self-discovery, I should say. So you can't teach it. You've got to self-discover it. If you don't self-discover it, then you're doing the same thing that those people are doing. And I don't advise you to do that. And I know that's what's wrong. So that's the trap. And a lot of people fall into that trap and they just succumb to apathy and they say, I'll never see past it because I won't ever have the truth. And that's why I'll never have the proof. And that's why Jesus did the mustard seed thing. You're never going to have the proof and you don't need it. The Creator can help you to find those truths. The universal spirit can help you to find those truths. Jesus, even parts of other religions can help you to find those truths. And then hopefully, if you find the truth and you elevate far enough, you'll attribute it to the right source. But it's only an attribute. It's only a label. Hopefully you'll get the label right. But the universal thing that I'm talking to you about is there, and you can accomplish it. You can accomplish it just by seeing it, and you can accomplish it today. You can accomplish it today just by having a breakthrough and seeing that thing. It may take you years to find the labeling and understand all the ins and outs of it and attribute the labeling correctly, but you can find it today. That's what you need to do in your search for the higher purpose. That will help all the list of everything we've been talking about come into play for you and work for you instead of against you. That will help you come to grips with higher concepts that you can't get your hands on right now because you're so tripped up by the lower end concepts that man has sold you all the days of your life. That will help with all that. I've covered it all. That's it. That's everything you need to know about religion. I didn't ask you for money. And I still, even if you weren't paying for counseling services and other things to go above and beyond, if even for 1 second I thought you couldn't achieve this without having to pay me, and I wouldn't do this on my own without it, I would just feel absolutely corrupt. I share with other people these things all the time. I share with my own family and friends and people that know me these concepts all the time, and I'm not well received. 2 reasons. Number 1, they're not looking. You came to me, you were already looking. You didn't know what you were looking for, but you knew you were looking. So you got more than you bargained for. You found somebody that has something to offer you, but why does he have something to offer? Because there was a void that caused you to look in the first place. And part of it could be tapped into this. And if you understand religion and you understand this video, you can start to get that. And then there's another reason. And I attribute this to Jesus. Jesus said that a prophet is never respected in his own country. They'll say, isn't that the guy from... How could he possibly say anything profound or connected with the light or divine truth? And they'll dismiss him. Now, I'm not saying I'm a prophet, but as soon as you start to find truths, and you start to change, and you start to build this inner essence, you're going to find your life's going to start to alter. You're going to probably originally, at first, start to fix all these things you'd like to have fixed, but you're going to find your life's going to start to alter in other ways. You're going to start to see the things of the earth, a lot of them grow strangely dim. And when you go and you share what you're starting to burgeon up from within you and your higher spirit and your consciousness, and you start to share it with others that aren't looking, or didn't see you for that before, or are in your inner circles that you think you're all doing great with right now, you're going to find that they won't respond to you very well. My own family and friends don't respond very well to these things. Why? Because they're so caught up in the facade of who they think you are and what you're capable of and your limitations that you've bought from these people that were selling, that they'll never believe you could jump past them if they're still wallowing in them. And when you go to try to reach them, that's when the sadness will come again, because you'll realize how much they'll need to be reached, and you'll realize this every single day, and you'll realize your limited capacity to reach them, because they're going to be saddled with the doubt. They're going to be saddled with the lack of proof. They're going to be saddled with the things that they've bought and sold in the transaction as a man under the guise of good all their life, and that's what they're left with, that limited vision. They're going to be saddled with all that. My hope is that you will gain and benefit, and through your gain and benefit, you will have through your art and your other means and connections to others, ability to fix what you want fixed, see what you need seen, understand and comprehend, and then somehow move that forward. That's why I would want to help you even if you weren't paying me to help you. And I've helped others even without being paid to help you. But I want you to see this. If you can't see everything that I'm saying on your own, not because I'm saying it, but on your own come to these things, then I request that you leave and don't continue to work with me. You must be your own individual. I cannot shape you without you shaping yourself. This is what so many other people that prey on people do. I urge you to make sure that every day you know I'm not about that, and you come to understand why. Understand the essence of what I'm trying to teach and help you with is about not being that. That's what you don't get when you go to others, because they're preying on what you feel you need, and they're trying to help their physical facade and the things in their life because it's real and it's here and it's now. And that's not what life is about, and that's not what higher purpose is about. And when you shape your higher purpose, you need to come to understand those things. You need to give back in the way that you realized someone gave to you, and that hopefully you saw it, and that was a great gift. And that wasn't my gift to give, by the way. I didn't come up with that. I'm just a messenger. And I hope that this video on religion spoke to you, and if you contemplate it and you meditate on it, I'm hoping that it'll make the world a better place in the small measure of that mustard seed going into your life and you applying that mustard seed. I'm hoping that one day mountains will be moved, even if we don't see them, we don't live long enough, or we don't perceive them. I'm hoping that mountains will move. And that's my life purpose. That's my higher purpose. You may find a life purpose that's similar to that. You may find a life purpose that's totally unique to yourself. But I think that whatever the life purpose is that the Creator wanted for you, if you follow these understandings of seeing what the difference is between the Creator and man's doing things in the guise of the Creator to sell you a false notion, if you can learn to distinguish that distinction, I think all knowledge and help will come to you, and higher enlightenment will come, and higher consciousness will come, and you'll resolve all things you'd like to resolve by that. And through your resolving of them, you'll start to help the world resolve. And that is my definition of higher purpose. You work with it. You one day tell me what your definition of higher purpose is. All right, Robert, you have a good day, and contemplate on this, and we'll talk some more. Take it easy.